You step outside on like a really clear, dark night, you look up at this seemingly infinite canopy of stars, and you ask the oldest question in the book, why am I here? What is the meaning of life?
Right, and usually we just sigh, accept that it's this unanswerable philosophical mystery, and go back inside.
Yeah, exactly. But what if the answer isn't philosophy at all? What if your biological purpose for being here is quite literally to keep those stars from disappearing?
I mean, for most of human history, that existential question has been the exclusive domain of religion, art, and philosophy. It's treated as a profound mystery to be pondered.
Not a mechanical problem.
Exactly, not a mechanical problem you can actually solve with an equation.
But today we are throwing that assumption entirely out the window. Welcome to a brand new deep dive. We are looking at a stack of sources today that takes the ultimate question of human existence and gives it a shockingly literal scientific answer.
It's a massive synthesis, really. We're
Yep.
talking evolutionary biology, the laws of thermodynamics, and quantum mechanics.
Yeah, all coming together to explain the exact mechanical purpose of why you, the listener, exist. It is honestly mind-bending, and it will completely change how you look at your place in the universe. So, okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin to tackle a topic this huge?
Well, to understand our cosmic purpose, we actually have to start incredibly small and look backward. We have to examine the bizarre biological accident that allowed us to even ask the question in the first place.
Right, because long before our hominid ancestors were stargazing, they were entirely driven by instinct.
Yeah, they were surviving, successfully navigating their environment, but they weren't consciously aware of themselves as separate entities from that environment.
So they were basically highly advanced biological machines like hungry, eat, danger, run. There was no internal monologue agonizing over whether they made the right life choices.
Precisely. But over vast passages of evolutionary time, something highly unusual happened to the human brain. The materials refer to this as hypertrophic expansion.
Hypertrophic, meaning overdeveloped. I'm picturing like a bodybuilder, but for a brain.
That's actually a really good way to look at it. It was excessive development that went far beyond basic survival needs. The research uses a really striking biological analogy to explain this.
Oh, the neck analogy, right.
Yeah. Imagine a creature whose neck just kept evolving to be longer and longer. So physically overdeveloped compared to the rest of its body, demanding huge amounts of biological energy.
Like a giraffe on steroids.
Exactly. For us, it wasn't a physical appendage, though. It was our neurological network. Our brain's cerebral cortex expanded, folding in on itself, adding massive numbers of neurons and trillions of synaptic connections until it hit a specific threshold, a critical mass.
I usually hear critical mass used in physics, not biology.
Well, it worked exactly the same way here. In physical elements, when you hit critical mass, the density forces a reaction that initiates the continuous fire of nuclear fusion.
Okay, so a chain reaction.
Right. And in human biology, the framework suggests that when our neural network hit that critical mass of complexity, it initiated a spark. And that spark was self-directed consciousness.
Wow. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of early humans when this happened, because it sounds like it wasn't a gradual, gentle waking up. It sounds like a sudden evolutionary shock.
It absolutely was a shock.
Imagine being an actor and you suddenly snap into full lucid consciousness right in the middle of a play. You're standing on stage, the lights are blinding, there are literal predators in the audience. The other actors are looking at you expecting a line, but you have no script.
You're just forced to invent the plot on the fly. That is a perfect way to visualize the terror of it. Think of the profound confusion that would come with that biological awakening.
It must have been terrifying.
Suddenly, they aren't just automatically reacting to the rustle of leaves in the bushes. They realize they are active players in a brutal survival drama. Their emotions deepen from simple fear to existential dread. And the most startling realization of all, they realize they have free will.
Which means they could look at the brutality of the food chain, look at the suffering, and choose to just stop playing.
Yes. With self-awareness comes the stark ability to opt out, to ask, why should I keep hunting and running when I am just going to die anyway?
Right. Obviously, a sufficient number of early humans chose to keep surviving, otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
True. But to endure that level of psychological shock, they needed a coping mechanism.
So, if I'm following this logic, does that mean this framework argues that all of our earliest spiritual beliefs, like our ancient myths, the sacred stories, were essentially just a biological survival mechanism, like a way to keep a newly hyper-conscious brain from short-circuiting and quitting the game?
That is exactly the argument the source presents. Early humanity sought to explain the crushing mystery of life by weaving narratives. These myths imbued a terrifying world with meaning and structure.
Just to get out of bed in the morning.
Basically, yeah. They temporarily assuaged this profound spiritual need within us. And when one myth stopped working or a new environmental crisis arose, we invented another. It was a continuous evolving process to keep ourselves moving forward.
Because we didn't have the science yet.
Exactly. We simply didn't have the scientific knowledge at the time to comprehend our true mechanical place in the cosmos.
Yeah.
So humanity built frameworks of meaning to fill the void.
That is just wild. We biologically engineered meaning so our massive brains wouldn't just give up. But, you mentioned we didn't have the scientific knowledge back then to understand our real purpose. We do now. So how does this origin story of our brains connect to the actual physics of the universe?
It connects because those early attempts to find structure were intuitively grasping at a reality we can now measure. As modern science developed, we discovered the laws of thermodynamics. Specifically, the second law, which is entropy.
Entropy, usually defined as the universe's fundamental tendency toward chaos and disorder, but I've always struggled with how that actually works in practice. Like, what does that mean?
The materials use a classic, really highly effective example to demonstrate the mechanics of it. Imagine a glass of pure water. You drop a single concentrated drop of black ink into it.
Okay, got it.
Over a matter of minutes, that ink diffuses outward, swirling and mixing until the entire glass is just a cloudy gray.
Right. And you could wait around for 1 trillion years, and that cloudy gray water is never going to spontaneously reorganize itself back into a perfect floating black drop of ink?
Never. And the reason why is purely statistical. There is only one exact arrangement of molecules that makes a perfect drop of ink. But there are billions and billions of possible arrangements where the ink molecules are scattered randomly throughout the water.
So it's just math.
Yeah, nature always moves toward the state with the highest number of possibilities, which is chaos. And because of this law, conventional science long believed that the ultimate fate of the entire universe is a heat death.
Just total, silent, random disorder where no energy can be exchanged. That sounds bleak.
Very.
But wait, if the universe is fundamentally dictated by entropy, if everything is always falling apart, how could life even exist in the first place? Doesn't a tree growing from a seed completely violate the rule you just laid out?
You've just hit on the exact paradox that science struggled to fully reconcile for decades. Think about the timeline. If the universe started with the Big Bang, which was a state of total randomness and chaos,
Right.
and it ends in a heat death, which is also total randomness and chaos, how can the beginning and the end be identical? It implies a static universe. But we know the universe is highly dynamic, and the ultimate proof of that is life.
Because we aren't chaos, we are highly organized structures.
Right. Traditional science tried to wave this away by saying, well, local systems can get complex if they borrow energy from a star, but the total universe is still decaying.
So like an exception to the rule.
Yeah, but this framework argues that view completely misses the grander truth. The history of the cosmos isn't just a descent into chaos. It is a dual narrative. It is also the story of steadily increasing complexity.
Okay, map that out for me. Where do we see this complexity building up?
From the literal microsecond after the Big Bang, we start with a chaotic soup of free quarks. Against the pull of entropy, those organize into simple hydrogen and helium atoms.
Then what?
Then complexity scales up. Gravity pulls them into stars, galaxies form. Inside those stars, simple elements are forged into complex heavy elements like carbon and oxygen.
Which are the fundamental building blocks for biology.
Exactly. And this increasing complexity transitions from physics to biology. We go from single-celled organisms to towering sequoia trees to complex mammals, and finally to humankind with its incredibly dense hypertrophic brain. The missing piece of the cosmic puzzle, the active force counteracting entropy, is synergy.
Synergy, the universal tendency toward order. sometimes called neg entropy.
Yes. And this is where the source drops a massive paradigm shift. The ultimate, literal purpose of life is to serve as a cosmic balancer. We exist to match entropy with synergy.
So we are like the pushback against the chaos.
Exactly. Intelligent life is the universe's ultimate complexity-producing engine. We take raw, chaotic matter and physically process it into complex, ordered shapes with intricate functions.
Which leads to my absolute favorite part of this deep dive. The materials use this physics framework to literally redefine morality. Good versus evil, but stripped of philosophy and judged entirely by thermodynamics.
That's a really bold claim.
It is. The argument is good equals synergy, so anything that creates order, builds connections, and increases complexity. And evil or bad equals entropy. Basically anything that destroys, breaks things down, or introduces randomness.
What's fascinating here is how practical that definition is, despite sounding so cosmic. Humanity has been doing this since our ancestors fashioned the first tools out of bone and stone,
Yeah.
expending energy to create order.
Exactly. I was reading this and laughing because by this definition, doing my laundry, folding it, and putting it away in an organized closet is literally a cosmic victory against evil. I am battling universal entropy with a laundry basket.
It sounds funny, but from the perspective of this framework, you actually are. Left alone, your room tends toward chaos. Clothes on the floor, dust accumulating. That is entropy.
My bedroom is definitely pure entropy.
Right. But by expending your biological energy to organize it, you are generating local synergy. Today, we are taking raw silicon from the Earth and turning it into supercomputers, accelerating the rate of advancing complexity on a global scale.
It totally reframes how you look at everyday choices. It's not just about laundry. The source suggests that when you face a difficult life decision, maybe navigating a conflict in a relationship or deciding how to run a business, you should calculate which option is more synergistic and less entropic.
It's a thermodynamic ethical compass.
Yeah. If an action builds trust, creates structure, or organizes a team, it is scientifically good. If it creates drama, breaks down communication, or introduces chaos, it's bad.
It provides a very clear path forward. When you align yourself to be an engine of complexity, decisions come more easily because you are operating in harmony with the physical mechanics of the cosmos.
But hold on, let me push back here for a second. If our biological purpose is to create order and balance the universe, that implies the universe actually needs us to do it. That sounds incredibly arrogant.
How so?
I mean, we're just tiny carbon-based specks on a generic rock in the suburbs of the Milky Way.
Well, historically, humanity's belief that we were the center of the universe was just an arrogant assumption based on ignorance. But the materials introduce a rigorous scientific concept that suggests we actually are central to the cosmos. It's known in astrophysics as the strong anthropic principle.
Anthropic meaning man-centered.
Yes. The strong anthropic principle highlights the staggering, almost mathematically impossible fine-tuning required for life to exist. If the fundamental forces of nature, like gravity or electromagnetism, were even fractionally different, stars would never have formed or atoms couldn't hold together.
Just a tiny tweak and it all falls apart.
Exactly. The physicist Dr. John D. Barrow is quoted in the source, pointing out that people are not random accidents. The spectrum of objects that can exist in the universe is strictly dictated by fixed mathematical constants.
Meaning the universe seems suspiciously rigged for us to be here.
Highly rigged. Dr. Brandon Carter proposed that because of these precise razor-thin conditions, the universe must give rise to observers at some stage in its history. And that brings us to the most mysterious, heavily debated facet of quantum mechanics.
Okay, here's where it's really interesting. Quantum mechanics.
Specifically, Niels Bohr's realization regarding how reality actually forms at a subatomic level. In quantum mechanics, famously demonstrated by the double-slit experiment, a fundamental rule emerges. Particles do not exist in a definite physical state until they are measured.
Wait. For an event to become actual physical reality, it must first be observed. If it's not physical reality before I look at it, what is it?
It's a wave of probabilities. It exists in all possible states at once, a concept called superposition.
Wow.
Yeah, it is only when a conscious observer interacts with it that the wave collapses into a single, localized physical reality. Scientists have agonized over the implications of this for nearly a century.
I can imagine.
The ultimate uncomfortable question is the universe still there when there is no one around to observe it? According to Niels Bohr's interpretation, the answer is no.
I'm struggling to picture that. Are you actually saying the moon isn't there if no one is looking at it?
It's highly counterintuitive to our macro-level brains.
Right.
But mathematically, yes, the material universe is not independent of the observer.
That makes me think of an open-world video game. Like when you play a massive exploration game, the computer's CPU isn't actually rendering the entire digital planet, every tree, every blade of grass all at once.
Right? That would be impossible.
Yeah, it would instantly crash the system. It only renders the specific mountains and trees that your character's camera is currently looking at. The rest of the digital world behind you is essentially just a wave of underlying code waiting to be observed into existence.
That is a brilliant analogy for quantum wave collapse. Without the player's camera looking, the trees aren't really there. Without a conscious mind measuring the universe, the physical universe remains a probability.
That is heavy.
It is. Which leads the Swords to a truly staggering conclusion about the nature of time itself. If the universe requires an observer to snap into physical existence, then the physical universe first truly began with the unfolding of consciousness.
But wait a minute. The universe is estimated to be nearly 14 billion years old. Human consciousness, even by the most generous evolutionary timelines, is brand new compared to that, like a blink of an eye.
Exactly. And this is the mind-bending mechanism the Source proposes. Time is not just a linear stream flowing continuously into the future. According to this framework, it is also flowing backward.
I'm back.
Yes, the physical history of the universe is actively being manifested, retroactively, in the very process of being observed today. The universe is literally catching up with its own history through our eyes.
Okay, let me make sure I have this. The famous quote from Carl Sagan is that we are made of star stuff. But this framework flips that on its head.
It makes it a two-way street. There's a beautiful sacred symmetry here. Life is made of star stuff, yes, but crucially, star stuff is made of life. The stars physically exist in the past because life is here to perceive them in the present.
This brings up a huge question. If the cosmos is rendering based on our observation, what does this framework predict about the rest of the universe? What else is out there?
The materials make some very bold, specific predictions based on this observer requirement. First, it predicts that life should inevitably be found anywhere in the universe where liquid water exists.
Even in our solar system?
Even frozen moons within our own solar system, yes. Because the universe is inherently primed under the anthropic principle to generate observers.
Okay, what else? What else does it predict?
It also claims this principle explains a major headache in modern physics, which is why protons have never been observed decaying. Standard models of physics suggest that over trillions of years, protons, the core building blocks of matter, should eventually break down.
But we haven't seen that happen.
We've never seen it happen. This framework argues that because conscious observation locks reality into a stable state, a quantum concept known as the Zeno effect, our mere existence prevents the foundational decay of the universe.
We are literally staring the universe into stability. That is incredible. But what about other observers? Are there aliens out there doing the same thing?
Well, here is the most profound, perhaps controversial prediction the Source makes. It claims we will never meet intelligent aliens.
Never. In a universe with trillions of galaxies. Come on.
Never. The argument is that the sequence of evolutionary events required to hit that biological critical mass of consciousness is so infinitesimally fragile, and the thermodynamic cost is so high, that we are the first.
The very first.
And perhaps the only conscious life in the entire cosmos.
So what does this all mean? Let's just sit with the weight of that for a second. If we are truly alone, that is an incredibly isolating, heavy reality.
It's a lot to carry.
But at the same time, it is intensely glorious. It means we aren't an accident. We are the linchpin. We bear this ultimate sacred duty to create order out of chaos, to act as the rendering engine for reality, and to literally keep the universe from dissolving into a wave of probability.
When you pull all these threads together, the picture is just magnificent. Our brains evolved over millions of years, growing at a massive energetic cost to a breaking point of self-awareness. We were thrust into a universe that is constantly decaying into entropic chaos.
But with a job to do.
Exactly. We were born so that we could act as the ultimate organizers. We are the synergy. We are the mechanism that keeps reality itself afloat.
So to everyone listening to this right now, the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by your day, the next time you feel like your life doesn't have a clear meaning or purpose, I want you to remember this framework. You are quite literally holding the universe together just by opening your eyes and observing it.
It's a profound thought.
Every time you clean a room, solve a complex problem at work, or build a meaningful connection with someone, you are fulfilling a cosmic duty.
You are balancing the cosmos, one synergistic act at a time.
Exactly. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final, lingering question to ponder the next time you look up at that canopy of stars. If it is true that our biological consciousness retroactively creates and maintains the physical universe through observation, well, what happens to the cosmos if humanity eventually evolves beyond our current physical form?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
If the nature of the observer changes, does the universe simply vanish? Or does reality just change its shape entirely?
A fascinating question to end on.
Something to chew on while you battle the evil of a messy room today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep creating order out of chaos, and we will see you next time.